Ladies and gentlemen, this is Farshore from Starling Games. This is the newest game in the Everdell universe, but is a standalone game. This is not an expansion for Everdell. This is its own game, but you're going to see a lot of similarities. Now, this is currently, at the time of this video being released, up for pre-order at tabletoptycoon.com. I'll put a link in the description below. But you can see here there is a lot of stuff going on that looks very similar. We've got mushrooms instead of berries, and we've got seaweed instead of resin, things like that. You do have 4 new critters, where it says right here 4 new critter types to expand your collection. So I don't see why you wouldn't be able to use them in your Everdell collection. But again, this is not an expansion. This is a standalone game. There, you'll notice also some similarities here. 1 to 4 players. That's what base Everdell gave you. Duration, 40 to 80 minutes. That's what Everdell offered you. Age, though, is 10 plus, whereas original Everdell was 13 plus. But you see, there is a section of cards here in the middle. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Farshore. This is set in the Everdell universe, the edge of the map, particularly in the Everdell universe. This is by Starling Games. This is very Everdell-like, but this is not Everdell. This is not an expansion. This is its own standalone game. So let's see what this is all about here. Even just looking at the back of the box, you can see that there is a lot of similarities here between Farshore and Everdell. But make no mistake, ladies and gentlemen, this is its own game. So they're currently taking pre-orders for this game at tabletoptycoon.com. I'll put a link in the description below. But if you'd like to learn more about what's inside this box, how it plays, and my personal thoughts on this game, stay tuned. This is the video for you. The forever sea is calling. The rugged coast north of Everdell Valley is a land brimming with adventure and mystery. Stalwart sailors search for bountiful islands and valuable treasures. Dutiful monks inhabit abbeys and scriptoriums, meticulously translating and illuminating. Hard-working folk gather resources and build their cities in unison with the ever-changing waves of the mighty ocean. Welcome to Everdell Farshore, a standalone game set in the country of Farshore. Through each season, you will lead a crew of critter workers to build up a prosperous city and to explore the enchanting ocean beyond. You must plan your actions carefully in order to build and to sail, for only by adapting to the winds of change will you succeed. The wind is high, the sun is breaking the horizon. It is time to set sail for adventure. Everdell Farshore is a standalone worker placement game set in the Everdell universe. Each turn, you will have the opportunity to send out a worker to collect resources or to play a card, either out of the bay or out of your hand. Each card that you play goes into your city and helps build your engine, creating more and more opportunities to gather resources and play cards in the future. As you place out your workers, you will eventually come to the point where you have no actions you can take on your turn. At this point, you will prepare for the next season, gathering up your workers and taking bonus actions depending on the season you're moving into. Preparing for the next season action can be taken at any time by different players, so oftentimes players will be in different seasons as they take consecutive turns. The premium components you see here are standard in every copy of Everdell Farshore, helping to enhance the immersive nature of the game. So for those of you who are familiar with Everdell, this should look incredibly familiar. The board is the same shape. The bay is, replacing the meadow, but we're still looking at 8 cards here with some resources up top and some, map tiles in this case to claim. The biggest difference here is this track that runs around the board. So this is your main source of endgame points, and to move your boat around, getting higher and higher on the points, you need to play cards that match one of these 2 tiles here. So these are called the windrows tiles. For example, if you play a construction card, any construction card, you get to move your ship. If you play a red card, you get to move your ship. So say you played the Cooper here, you would get to move your ship once. But if you happens to have, I don't have any in front of me, but if you had a red location, a construction, then you could move it twice because you clarify both. Each time the last person prepares for season, these are changed. So you're going to get new things. That way you don't spend the entire game looking for red constructions. But if you change seasons early, you're maybe still can get in a few of these before they change. So there's that strategy built into when do you change for season. Do you wait to do it early, or do you do it early, or do you wait? Another thing that is changed from Everdell is these map tiles, which replace the events. You can see they're very similar, that you're looking for a certain number of colored cards in your city or town, and you still need to go to this location to claim one, but they're stacked here. So right now I have set up for a 2-player game, so there's 2 tiles here. If I'm the first player to claim it, I get a more lucrative tile. Basically, these shells are endgame victory points. So if I claim this one, each of my map tiles is worth 2 points. But I could then claim this one here. It's not worth as much total, but it's still a map tile, which will help boost this one. So you want to try and claim them all, and they give you the ability to claim them all. In Everdell, you were basically first person to claim that event. That was it. That's all you got. So everybody can now claim each one of the map tiles. Whoever does it faster gets a more lucrative map tile. Also, down here we have what essentially are the forest locations. So you still have the basic locations that are always there. Some you can send multiple workers to, some can only accept a single worker. But down here you have the lucrative, in this case, island locations, which replace the forest locations. The biggest trick with these, though, is that halfway through the game, so whoever prepares for summer last will actually go in and flip over 2 of these. So if you're playing, I've set multiple out here so you can kind of see what they look like, but if you were playing just a 2-player game, you're actually going to flood both of them. In a solo game, you're flooding the one, and so you're completely losing that location. That is a major difference, because these were pretty fought after, and in this game in general, resources are harder to come by, but cards are easier to come by. So it's easier to go through the deck and see more unique cards, because anytime cards that are duplicates enter the bay, you stack them. So if I were to claim this merchant, there's still going to be another merchant there. I don't open up a new spot for a new card, but if I were to draw another merchant and there would be 3 of them, because this guy's a common critter, he's just going to get stacked there. So, and a lot of the card text is discarding cards and drawing cards and adding cards and removing cards. So there's a lot more, which was one of the biggest complaints about Everdell, was that you couldn't ever, a lot of times you couldn't find the one critter that you wanted because they fit neatly into the construction you'd already played and you could play them for free. Well, they've also done away with that. So previously those were occupy tokens. If you had the specific person that went with the warehouse. I don't know who it would be, but in this case, this is a green construction. So you can move any green critter into, so you could move the scribe or the merchant into the warehouse for free by spending one of these very fancy anchor tokens here. So these anchor tokens replace the occupied tokens, but the trick is you only get 3 of these. So this is something similar was introduced in the later expansions of Everdell, where certain constructions could take any critter of that same color. This utilizes that strategy, but says you can only do this 3 times in the entire game. So how much is it worth to you to get that free person out early? May not be as lucrative, or it may help build your engine early on. Again, this is a different type of strategy that they've thrown into the mix here. Red locations. There are more red locations. So there's more locations for you to go to. They're killing off, flooding half of the locations halfway through the game, but there's going to be more locations, red locations in the game. But from now on, only you can visit your city's locations. So there's no longer open locations that you can go into someone else's city and visit and have to give them a resource to use. There's only open locations, and they're only for you. So that is another change from base Everdell. And then last but not least, we have these treasure tiles here. These treasure tiles you earn through various card effects. You also earn them as you travel around the board in your ship here. These can be played or turned in as any wild resource. You cannot claim one when you are given the chance to gain any resource. You still have to gain one of these 4. But these essentially act as a wild resource, but if you hold on to them at the end of the game, they're worth 2 victory points, and some cards may say the more treasure tiles you have at the end of the game, the more points that particular critter or construction is worth. So again, is it worth it for you to give up 2 victory points to get that one resource you need? Again, another tough strategy that they have built into this game. But in general, this game is more streamlined. So you're basically adding 1 worker per season. And you're always seeing 8 unique cards in the deck. There's, only 1 person can go to red locations, and that's you in your city. So a lot of the trickier things that people often forgot about in Everdell, they have kind of gotten rid of those. As far as the solo mode is concerned, you're playing against Captain Bonnie Redclaw. Now, you don't have to use the crabs, but they say in the book that Captain Bonnie Redclaw's favorite color is red. So in general, you would use the crabs and pick any other color to play as. And in this game so far, there's no special critter powers like they built into Everdell after some of I think it was the Belfair expansion. So it really doesn't matter who you play with, it's just color choice. You can see here that Bonnie Redclaw has various difficulty levels that you'll mark at the beginning of the game, or you can just remember, all right, I'm going to play on Bashful. Basically, it's how quickly she moves around this board when she plays a card that matches a Windrose tile. She also comes with this handy-dandy reference card for her particular actions. She comes with a special action deck. This is going to be most of the worker placement actions that Bonnie takes. She's simply going to flip over one of these cards, and you're going to start from the top and attempt to go there. So, is a open location available in her city? She's going to go there, and she's going to move her boat too. If not, she's going to go to this location here with the mushrooms. If not, she's going to go to the lookout. And the one at the bottom is always available. It's always going to be one of these 3 spots that anybody can go to and is always open. So she's going to spend the first part of her turn sending workers out somewhere. Once she has run out of workers, she's going to start playing cards out of her hand, and then she's going to start playing cards out of the bay. She basically keeps doing this until you prepare for a season. So similar to how Rugwort worked, that Rugwort stayed in each season until you did, whereas Nightweave in the later expansions would pass into different seasons at her given time. Now, how do you go about deciding which cards she's choosing? For Rugwort, it was simply rolling a d8 die and picking up that card. Well, Bonnie has this slightly fiddly, I'll be honest with you, but board here where whichever of these tokens is highest, she's going to go after that one. So right off the bat, she wants purple cards, but every time she plays a card or draws a card out of the bay, she's going to move that same type up, and eventually it's going to move off the board, and then she kind of ignores that color. So I haven't quite, figured out the main purpose of this, because where these tokens are at the end of the game don't change her score. So really this is just a way for you to quickly reference which color card she should take, and will change throughout the game and can change slightly throughout the during setup. But you'll notice that if you bump it even the slightest, those tokens just kind of scatter. Included with the AI system is these weather cards. So this is something that you can add as you increase Bonnie from bashful to bold and then get up into brilliant or breathtaking. You are basically going to be playing out these weather cards, and in some instances you're only going to play with half of them. Other instances you'll play with both, and these only affect human players. So this is similar to the weather tokens that you would find in the Spirecrest expansion that just kind of made life a little bit more difficult. So again, these are really only to ramp up the difficulty, and Bonnie is not affected by them in any way. So again, making the game difficult for you and not for herself. That's pretty much it. She plays a little bit differently in Autumn. Once she makes it to Autumn, she's solely going to play cards and try and go after map tiles until she has run out of cards in her hand. Then she's going to send out all her workers, and then she'll be done. So Autumn is the only season that she could finish before you. But then at the end of the game, she's going to score for wherever her ship is. She's going to score based on the color cards in her city, which can be more than 15, similar to Rugwort and Nightweave. And there you go. So that is a brief overview of how the solo mode Bonnie Redclaw plays here in Farshore. So here's my thoughts on the game. Is this game like Everdell? Yes. It's set in the Everdell universe. It's the same mechanics. It looks very similar. Yes. This is Everdell 2.0. But if you are a fan of Everdell, aren't you wanting more Everdell? There's an issue with expansions. Expansions normally add complexity to the game. They normally add to setup and rules and all that other stuff. And generally, it's harder to add multiple expansions to a game. For example, Everdell, they recommend not playing with all the expansions. Now, has it been done? Yeah, plenty of people have done it. But it lengthens the game, it makes the game more complicated. So to just keep adding expansions to Everdell to keep this universe going is not really common sense. So what they've done here is, given you Great Western Trail Argentina, or every single different version of Monopoly that's out there. I mean, honestly, if you're watching this video, I bet you own multiple versions of Monopoly. Why? Well, because there's something a little bit different about each one, and so you're willing to go out and pick up that, slightly different version. That's all this here is. This is just a Everdell adjusted in a way that it feels different. For some people, this may be their entry into the system, and there is, good things about this game that would make it a good entry point. There are a few fiddly things that I was not a fan of. So we can just jump on my negatives. One was the boats here are cute, but feel cumbersome when space is so tight around the board and I'm trying to utilize this space to place cards here. I'm having to like flip them around like this, or a lot of times I was just stacking them like this. I understand that the point of the sail is supposed to point to the shell that you're on and the position you're on, but the problem is, even with just 2 players, if you guys are sharing a space, I was having to go like this. What would you do if 4 of you are all in the same space at the beginning of the game? Unless I read the rules wrong and you're supposed to be hopping over people, there are going to be times where more than one ship has to share a space, and it just feels overly cumbersome. I understand that they gave you this extra meeple so that you could utilize these critter meeples in Everdell if you wanted to, because they are unique from what's already in there. But this just feels in excess. I honestly would have been fine with just a boat meeple that could have stacked easily and stayed on the board instead of working your way around the outside of the board. For the AI, for the most part, the AI was very easy to manage. So imagine a mixture or something in the middle between Rugwort and Nightweave. So medium complexity. If Nightweave is tough complexity and Rugwort was super easy, this one was right in the middle. For the most part, it was fairly simple to just go through the motions of placing out your worker. That was super simple. Or playing a card out of the hand. It more came down to keeping up with, did they play something that allows them to move their boat? I oftentimes missed that, and I tried to go back and reconcile, but I'm sure I probably missed some points for the Bonnie Redclaw there. Again, these tokens are a little fiddly, but at the end of the day, it worked. I didn't bump them at all and get them knocked away, and it helped really keep, keep Bonnie's deck, that the cards she was attempting to play, more evened out, because at any point in time she could viably go for the events, even if I've claimed the event first. So she wants to have 3 reds, 3 blues, 4 greens. So that enables, with green starting at the bottom way down here there, and purple's going to shoot off the board early because you're going to go after her early. She's going to get those points, and then you're kind of going to ignore purple cards, whereas green will stick around longer. So at the end of the day, I was a little skeptical, but the card worked. The card worked to just help keep her hand or her city very balanced, because she can then go after these tiles here. And these tiles, honestly, I feel like that's the game-winning strategy, is going after these tiles, getting them early so you get the double points, but just getting them, period, because I actually scored more points off of these map tiles than I did going around the outside edge of the board. I scored, half, as much as going around the board in what was in my city. It used to be that you scored really big off of what was in your city and your events. Now it's like these map tiles are the big one. The next big one is going around the outer edge. So again, this all changes your strategy of how you go about playing this game. It makes it different from Everdell. So, would I recommend this game for an Everdell fan? Yes. There is unique artwork in here. I was not a super fan of seeing the post office with a postal pigeon. I see that card so much in Everdell, but it's made its way back. But this is the only one I found that I was like, okay, I certainly have seen that one before. Where was my favorite? The Navigator here. The Dolphin with the pocket watch here was my favorite card to see. So obviously this set, at least, is going to be very much driven towards sea animals and water animals and things like that. But, like the gardens here is not necessarily sea related, but it's unique. I thought the inn was cute too. Stuff like that. So, new, unique artwork, and the artwork feels different. It is a different. It's not Bosley. I'm not 100% sure who the artist is. I will put their name in the description below because I hate that I don't know it, but they've done a really good job here of creating something new and different. So it makes you want to look at this game and you don't feel like they're just recycling artwork. At the end of the day, I felt like I was playing Everdell, but Everdell is a world, is a board game universe that I am comfortable in, that I can play quickly and, you know, get into easily. I won't have to, you know, tug on my gaming group's arm because my gaming group likes Everdell. So they're quickly going to say, yeah, sure, I'll try out Farshore. So if you're a fan of Everdell, I would definitely say keep this on your radar if you have not pre-ordered it already. I do think that there is some room for, you know, expansion onto this. I don't know whether that's their plan, is to create multiple expansions. The board is, you know, pretty straightforward here. It's just a big circle. It didn't have those weird edges like the Everdell board did, where you were almost like, I feel like something's supposed to go here, and then they did put something there. This may be all there is to it, and that may be perfect. You may get out Everdell when you want to play all of this with all the expansions, and you pick out Farshore when you're like, I just want basic stuff. So this is a great worker placement game. This is some great artwork. It's a very unique board, some amazing components. Other than my little fiddly boats here, I wasn't too keen on the seaweed. It's just too hard to pick up. But all the other components, top notch, loved them. You know, I was really keen on these guys. I don't know why, but these little blue crystals were just fun to pick up, and anything squishy is cool too. I would say this is a definite purchase for anyone who's a fan of Everdell. If you were going to purchase your first game in the Everdell universe, I honestly could see it being a toss-up between this one and base Everdell. This one has the kind of shoreline beach theme, so maybe that's more your vibe. Maybe you like this artwork slightly better than the Andrew Bosley artwork. At the end of the day, I don't feel like if you are jumping in, you would need to get both. I think that would be a little silly. But if you want something now that you don't feel like, I'm going to need to immediately turn on and get expansions for it, then pick up Farshore. I could maybe see them adding some cards to this, but not major expansions. Some more critters, maybe some special powers for the critters would be cool. Maybe some new stuff for Bonnie Redclaw. Keeping the expansions minor, small box expansions, whereas Everdell was coming out with big box expansions. So that's just my thought process. I definitely enjoyed the game. I'm glad it's in my collection, and it's a keeper as far as I'm concerned. So go check it out. They're taking pre-orders now. I'll put a link in the description below. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more content on the Meeple Marathon, please consider subscribing to the channel. Once again, thanks for watching. Have a great day.